Bro, I don't care what you say, the modern addictions are keeping you weak. You don't want to admit it, but that's the truth. You are so certain that I'm not talking about you and that I'm referring to someone else. But I am talking about you, bro. Your ego is gonna get in the way and you're gonna straight away think that, yeah, I'm not weak, I'm pretty strong. Bro, chances are, if you're a young man, you got sucked into multiple of these modern addictions, like playing video games, going on social media, taking drugs, and watching porn. It blows my mind that there are some people that think these addictions are normal and they don't even consider them addictions in the first place. And chances are that you got sucked into it pretty young as well. I'm not special, bro. I'm gonna put my hand up and say that I got sucked into it as well. I used to play video games when I was so young, literally like 9 years old. Me and my brother would play computer games on our computer. Those days we used to have this bulky monitors, if you know, you know. But we used to complete missions on Knight Rider and stuff. Our days would be consumed by it and we would barely go outside. But if it was like this like literally 12 years ago, imagine how addicted kids are nowadays. Kids are literally overstimulated by the modern technology these days, like VR headsets and overstimulated games. And of course, I got sucked into social media at a very young age as well. I was like 10 years old when I first created my first Facebook account. This was like 10 years ago, and bro, these two alone did so much damage to my brain. But the worst is yet to come. Later on, I would start watching porn, and even later down the line, I would start smoking weed and get addicted to it. So, not long ago, about 2 years ago, I was doing all the bad habits known to mankind. Think about how fried my dopamine receptors were. No wonder I didn't find any joy or energy in my life at that time. The thing is, I only thought that a couple of these things were really bad for me in the first place. Things like going on social media and playing video games, I didn't even see as a bad thing up until recently. But all of my bad habits stopped after I got hit with a mental illness called psychosis about 2.5 years ago. And that was a big reality check for me. I've covered it a bunch of times on my channel, but it was basically induced by LSD or acid, which is a drug if you didn't know. And I basically lost touch with reality. I lost touch with reality for about 3 months, up until I came back to my senses with the help of antipsychotics. And me still being the dumbass that I was, smoked weed as soon as I got better. But I wasn't fully cured yet, so I relapsed as soon as I smoked. And the second time round, it took a lot longer for me to recover. It's been 2.5 years and I still haven't recovered fully. There is still one symptom lingering around, which is called auditory hallucinations. If you didn't know, it's when you hear voices inside your head. It's been around for about 2 years and it's been declining in intensity with the help of antipsychotics, but it's still pretty prominent. Just imagine hearing voices inside your head every 3 to 5 days and it being there up until you go to sleep. It's honestly been so tough, bro, but I try to see the positive out of everything. It was all my fault, but spilt milk is spilt milk. But yeah, it took a fucking mental illness to hit me for me to realize that what I was doing was bad for me. I'm a prime example of what you shouldn't do. There's a saying that goes, men learn from their mistakes, but wise men learn from the mistakes of others. So I hope you're that wise man, bro. I have taken a big step back from the modern addictions. I basically quit all of them cold turkey. I honestly feel good as I'm making these videos and I feel like I've made great progress towards my goals as well. And I'm grateful for all that I went through because I wouldn't be the man that I'm today if I didn't go through all that. The bad habits might seem like fun and games at first, but I'm telling you, bro, you will regret them later down the line. The bad habits are just easy dopamine, it's instant gratification. Doing these will fry your dopamine receptors. It will fry them to a point where you won't find any joy in doing anything else other than the bad habits. You might have had this already, where when you unplug from the bad habits, you feel like your life is boring and nothing other than the bad habits excite you anymore. Think about this. Because of the modern addictions, you are now the weakest of your bloodline. How embarrassing is that, bro? Imagine you stand next to your ancestors and they look at what you've become. A lazy, fat piece of shit. They would feel nothing but disappointment. They were out here hunting and gathering and risking their lives so that you could be born. They risked their lives and some of them even died just so that you can play video games and jack off 5 times a day. Bro, you have so much potential in you that you haven't unlocked because you're just unworthy of it just yet. Imagine where you would end up if you dedicated 5 or 6 years to the gym and taking care of your nutrition. At your age, you would pack on so much muscle so fast. And in 5 or 6 years, you would end up looking like a Greek god. Imagine the amount of self-confidence that you will gain because you put in the work. What's special about it is that it's hard to get. If it was easy, everyone would be walking around jacked. But since it's hard, now you stand out from the crowd. Anyone can do the bad habits, bro, but only a few can stick to the good habits. Because the effort of the good habits are high, and the reward of the good habits are also high. The reward of the bad habits are low, and the effort required to do the bad habits are also low as fuck. Now you might be thinking, okay Himanshu, now we know that the modern addictions are keeping us weak, But what should we do instead? You need to transition into the good habits and get off the bad habits simultaneously. Just replace the bad habits with the good ones. You need to get onto what we call holistic self improvement. This is something that the YouTuber Hamza is really famous for. It consists of a bunch of good habits like exercising, which I already mentioned, meditation, reading, and gratitude journaling. You can add something like working on a business to that as well, which I have already done. Remember, your goal with these habits are to do them for life, so you expect it to be shit at them first. Most young men have a massive ego and they straight away think that they can do 1 hour of exercise or 30 minutes of meditation just off the bat. They will do that for 2 or 3 days and say, "Yup, I tried it and it didn't work for me." And they will start hating on self improvement. Let me put it this way, bro. Since you're used to instant gratification, let me explain it that way. Once you start playing a video game, are you going to be good at it off the bat if you haven't played it at all? No, of course not. You have to put in the work to get good at it. It's the same with self improvement. You have to do the hard work consistently for you to see some results. So you need to take that hit to your ego and say, "Yup, I'm not good at the self improvement thing just yet. So let me take it step by step and start small." So you start going to the gym for 20 minutes instead of an hour. And you start getting consistent in it. You go for, let's say, 3 weeks for 20 minutes a day. And it suddenly becomes too easy for you. So you increase it to 30 minutes instead. You see how it's a concept of progressive overload that's been applied here. If you didn't know what progressive overload is, it's a term that's used in weightlifting where you basically increase the intensity of the exercise by any amount every week. Even if it's by 1 rep, it's still considered progressive overload. So you need to apply this concept to literally every good habit. You need to start small and progressively overload, say, every week. So you start with 1 minute of meditation in the first week, and you do 2 minutes of meditation in the second week, and so on and so forth. Same with reading. If you start off with 5 pages a day for the first week, in the second week, just bump it up to 7 or even 10. I remember when I first started reading, I was so trash at it because I couldn't keep my attention on the paragraph that I was reading. I would just randomly start thinking about shit mid-sentence. And that just goes to show how fucked my attention span was because of years of damage that I've done to my brain. But I knew I couldn't undo all of it with a flick of a switch. So I just kept doing the good habits repeatedly up until I got up to a point where I could concentrate a lot better. This is the mindset that you guys should have as well. That you need to always think that you're doing these habits for life. So you have your whole life ahead of you to progressively overload. So what you have to do now is get off the bad habits first. I know it's not easy, bro, especially when you have gone years in your life doing this every day and you don't have a mental illness that makes you stop them cold turkey. So you have to rely on your willpower and discipline. And chances are you haven't leveled up those two things if you went your whole life indulging in instant gratification. But I'm telling you, bro, your life is going to be 10 times better if you dedicate yourself to doing this and you will never go back. Anyway, I hope you learned something from this video, bro, and I wish you the best of luck on your self-improvement journey.